Hey, Warrior Saints. Happy Friday. Glad to have you beautiful people in with us. My dad was here about a month ago, and it was amazing. And he was here for Christmas, which meant we had our Christmas tree up. But he stayed for 3 weeks, which was absolutely even more amazing because he never takes that much time away. He never stays with us for that long. Usually he comes for like a week and then he needs to run back and do all these other things. But we had him for 3 whole weeks. It was absolutely amazing. And my daughter and he just had a blast together, and she still asks, when is Jiddo coming back? When we took our tree down, though, he was still here. And as we took our tree down, we now had this empty corner. And my wife decided that we should put a bookshelf there that used to be in a different part of the house. And so we were putting this bookshelf up. And she put the bookshelf in the corner, but at an angle, so that there was dead space behind the bookshelf and the wall. And I immediately had a flashback. Immediately, I was 14 years old again. And when I was 14, I got a new bed. It was bigger than my old bed, so we had to rearrange the furniture in my bedroom because the bedroom size stayed the same, but now the bed changed, so we had to redo everything. And I had a dresser that I wanted to put in the corner at an angle. And I was adamant that it had to be at this angle. And I was firm and so convinced. And it was the worst thing in the world if we didn't leave it at this angle. That it had to be at this angle. And my dad was so convinced it had to be flush against the wall. And we fought so much. And I really thought that it mattered. And he was adamant that it mattered to be differently. And we clashed to the point where I declared I was leaving. Now, I got off easy because I just went and hung out in the backyard for a little bit. He had to deal with my mother, who was frustrated that I had left. And why was he yelling at me like this and doing all of those things? Because, she was protecting her baby boy. And all of this was going on. And I was brought back into that moment while my wife put this bookshelf at a corner with my father standing there in the room. And now I had a choice to make because I did not want it to be at that angle. I wanted it to be flat against the wall. And I just looked at her and I said, honey, I don't think we should put it at that angle. I think we should put it flat against the wall. I immediately turned back around, looked at my dad, and I said, don't you say a word. And then I went about my business. The reality is that in that new experience that we had, where I now had seen the wisdom of my father's age, I realized something, that I thought that this thing that really mattered didn't actually matter. And at the time, what felt like this huge thing that kept going and moving and shaking and felt like I was being oppressed, it's my space, it's my room, didn't matter. But I needed the age. I needed the time after. It's been 25 years since that experience happened. I needed those 25 years to realize how silly it was for me to think like that. And something Father Chris said yesterday really stuck with me. So many of the things that we think of as suffering are not actually suffering. There are so many things that are actual suffering. But those things that we think of in our youth, without the wisdom of age that we think of as suffering, they actually can be moments that prepare us for what's coming next. Every time we're in a situation, it feels like it's the most that we can handle and it's the worst thing that can happen and we can't ever get through it. And then we get to the next one and the next one's harder. But with the wisdom of age, we can look back and see how the previous experience taught us, prepared us, and gave us the tools that we can now apply. But this takes a huge mindset. This takes a big shift in mindset, that we need to adopt and adjust. We hear about it in Romans 12:2, as we've been talking about for the last 3 days. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of our mind. This renewal of our mind is also being able to see that it's through wisdom that we are able to understand things differently. When we look at all of these things that are horrific, they can actually be windows and glimpses into a new style of life. I'm preparing for a sermon on Sunday, so I don't want to give too many spoilers for what I'm going to preach on Sunday. But Sunday is the feast of the translation, the movement of the relics of St. Ignatius of Antioch. And I started reading his letter to the Romans again in preparation for this. And it's filled with all of this beautiful imagery as he is on his way to his martyrdom, suffering par excellence. He knows what's coming, and he's begging the people in Rome, don't get between me and my martyrdom. Don't do anything to try to stop it. It is only in his martyrdom, he says, that he will actually be a disciple of Christ, that he will actually earn the name of Christian, actually earn what it means to be who God has created us to be. But it takes the wisdom of age. St. Ignatius isn't writing that as a young child. He's writing that as an old man after having that experience, having all of the experiences of his life woven together as a tapestry of his life to explain and show him how everything has brought him to this moment. And that's how our life is. But we need the wisdom. And we also need the guidance of others that have that wisdom. If I had not had that initial experience with my father when I was 14, to now understand where that wisdom was actually coming from in my 40, as I'm 40, I wouldn't have had that guide along the way. I wouldn't have had that path showing me. It doesn't mean I always wanted to hear it, but it also doesn't mean that it was wrong. So as we're going and we think that all these things matter so much, we need guides to help us see where things are and how to put things in perspective. And that's precisely what we're here to do. Here at the Warrior Saints Movement, we are here to help you understand what's going on in the world so that you can transform your mind, so that you can be renewed through that transformation, and so that you can become an exceptional human being. Visit us at warriorsaints.org and get on this path that takes 3 steps. First is visiting warriorsaints.org. Second is subscribing to our flagship offering, The Way of the Warrior Saint. And third is watching these videos that have so many great things that we can take and implement right now in our lives so that we can get through that path, so that we can go along that path, so that we can follow along that way, and so that we can come out on the other side transformed by the renewal of our mind as exceptional human beings. Visit us, warriorsaints.org. Get on the way. We'll be back again on Sunday with Orthros and Divine Liturgy at 9 and 10 a.m. respectively. And until we see you again on Monday with our Crucifixional Life stream, you keep walking on the way of the Warrior Saint.